My dear viewers, hello and welcome to a new episode of our program Cultural Magazine, during which we bring you the latest cultural events that are taking place in Egypt. Please stay tuned.
Minister of Culture Dr. Nevin Kilani inaugurated the Museum of Symbols and Pioneers of Egyptian Art after its development at the headquarters of the National Center for Theater, Music and Folk Art. The event came in the presence of the head of the Cultural Production Affairs Sector, Director Khaled Galal, the head of the Leaders Center at the Ministry of Culture, the artist Yasser Sadiq, and a group of art stars, together with members of parliament as well as members of the Association of the Sons of Artists of Egypt. The minister added that the opening of the museum after its development and raising its efficiency is an important step towards honoring the symbols of Egyptian art and creativity. Dr. Kilani noted that the museum includes many personal belongings of a large number of artists going back to the old times, along with a number of current stars. The minister invited the public to visit the museum and see an important part of the history of Egyptian art, expressing her gratitude to everyone who contributed to preparing and bringing the museum to light in its bright new image. The Minister of Culture directed to start immediately expansion of the museum and the inclusion of more holdings after a number of artists and their families expressed their desire to donate holdings, manuscripts, photographs, and rare CDs to the museum. For his part, Director Khaled Galal expressed his happiness with the opening of the museum, stressing that it is a dream come true after many years, indicating that credit goes to the head of the National Center for Theater, Music and Folklore, artist Yasser Sadiq, who exerted a great effort to persuade the children of artists to donate the belongings of their families to crown this effort with the opening of his edifice. The museum contains unique holdings that take us back to a time of creativity, pointing out that the museum is an important step towards preserving the history of the greatest symbols of Egyptian art. Galal thanked the workers in the plastic art sector for cooperation in developing the museum and restoring many of its pieces. Head of the National Center for Theater, Music, Singing and Folklore, Yasser Sadiq, said that the work in the museum began 4 years ago when they started collecting donations from members of the Association of Artists' Sons, who contributed greatly so that the museum collections increased from the possessions of only 9 artists to become what it has of the possessions of more than 79 artists. Galal also pointed out that the museum includes hundreds of holdings and thousands of pictures, some of which are more than 120 years old, including the oud of the people's artist Sayyid Darwish, his marriage contract to Jalila, and his ebony stick, the thoughts of the artist Dawood Hosni, and a wonderful dress that was donated to the museum by the theater icon Samiha Ayub, in addition to the holdings of Yusuf Wahba and a large number of other art symbols. The museum includes holdings of major Egyptian artists and pioneers of Egyptian art. This comes in addition to some handwritten manuscripts for several writers of the beginning of theater works in Egypt. There was also a carpet for the ancient Egyptian Opera House, another for the National Theatre, a carpet for the Sayed Darwish Theatre, many original photographs, musical composition, the greats of Egyptian art. Under the auspices of the Minister of Culture, Dr. Nivine Kileni, and the Cultural Production Affairs sector, headed by Director Khaled Galal, the third bird photography exhibition was recently inaugurated. President of the Egyptian Society for the Protection of Nature and Environment, Dr. Sharif Bahauddin, inaugurated the exhibition at the Adam Hanin Hall at the Hanagir Arts Center under the supervision of its director, Shadi Sroor. The exhibition comprises of about 100 artists of nature lovers, birds, and wildlife from all over Egypt. The exhibit brings together photographers with a passion and patience for the dangers of this skill, which is to take artistic pictures of all kinds of wild and migrating birds. The pics are taken in the birds' nests or during their flight to Egypt from all over the world and the three continents, which is a witness to its migration from Europe to Africa through Egypt, which is considered a crossing point for all types of birds, with all their rare ones. The event comes in cooperation with the Egyptian Society for the Protection of Environment and Nature, which is a kind of support for these photographers as it works to guide them to the birds' whereabouts during the crossing of about 2 million birds in these areas. The exhibit throws light on humans' threat to the environment and nature of these birds, and it also urges an increase in awareness and interest in wildlife, preserving the environment, and the increasing number of those interested in observing and photographing birds through this entity that brings together wildlife photographers on the ground.
The Cairo Opera House plays a significant role in the cultural movement that is taking place in Egypt. Let's watch the following segment from the Cairo Opera House.
Within the activities of the Cairo Opera House celebrations of Christmas time and the New Year 2023, the international band Cairo Steps held a concert on the Grand Theater at the Cairo Opera House, entertaining the audience with a selection of its most famous musical pieces such as Khalij Steps, Infiraja and Saidi, including its newest work, Dahab. Cairo Steps also surprised the audience with the presence of singer Ali Hilbawi and Sheikh Ihab Yunus as guests at the concert, performing 2 songs from the most famous work of Cairo Steps.
مرسال لحبيبتي حبيبتي شرطة ميلة فراغ وهكتب لي حروف اسمك ما وانت في قلبي ساكنة القلب عارفة بقصتي وحالي ومين غيرك في قلبك حبله مرسالي أما بعد مانيش عارف جوابي ده جوابي كام، ما عدتش بحسب الصفحات، ما عدتش بحسب الأقلام، ما عدتش بحسب اللي ضاع من الأوهام. كفاية إني بحبك بس، وقلبك لو بقلبي حس أو شاف حاله في بعادك لصلى الرب واستغفر لذنبه وصاب.
فريق كايرو ستيبس بيقدم زي ما بنقول كوليكشن، بيقدم أنواع كتير في المحبة في المطلق.
Cairo Steps presents a diverse styles of music which all presented with love. The idea of mixing Islamic, Eastern and Sufi music is also because some of the band members are German, in which they really adore the high state of this merge and enjoy the culture exchange. I'll perform with Cairo Steps one of my dearest songs, Mirsel La Habibti, the soundtrack of the movie Microphone, and I usually perform it with my band, but the surprise was when Mr. Bassem Darwish, the founder of Cairo Steps, agreed to include the song in my performance, and I'm so happy with his decision. What I meant is that we present all kinds of music. For me, God gave me a flexible voice that allows me to sing in Sufi, chanting, love songs, or any state I feel. And the same with the band, our beliefs and concepts are the same in terms of diversity, unleashing our musical spirit to form and fit in any work.
ويا ما في نفسي، يا ما يا ما يا ما يا ما في نفسي تيجي القلب وتحني، ولازم تعرفي اني لا انا عفريت ولا جني، بحبك بس ايد اقصر كتير مني، فمش هقدر اجيبلك من الدهب كفه واجيبلك من الياقوت كفه، ومش هقدر اجيب الوالي في الزفه، ومش هقدر اجيبلك بيت يموت القطر لو لف في حماك لفه. كفايه اني بحبك موت، وحب الناس ندامه وعار، وحبي عكسهم
اقصد اقوله ان احنا كوليكشن، بنقول كل الحالات الموسيقيه اللي موجوده، لان انا كمان كعلي الهلباوي ضد تصنيف، لان ربنا لما بيحب.
The program included a distinguished collection of their works including توتة، الحياة حلوة، ليالي الأنس، ما تحرمش العمر، يا ابو ضحكة جنان فور فريد الأطرش، أسمر يا اسمراني، غلطة واحدة، علشان بحبك، خليكوا شاهدين for فايزة أحمد, along with a number of works for great composers such as قولوله الحقيقة for كمال الطويل، فاكرة محمد الموجي، عرباوي، مطلوب من كل مصري for حلمي بكر، على الحلوة والمرة and بياني ولا شاريني for محمود الشريف.
I know Cairo Steps since 8 years now, and I know also the founder, Matthias Frey. 20 years ago, they had the idea to found Cairo Steps, and I just love this style of music, to improvise a lot, to have the Arabian roots, but to open it up to all over the world. And my role with the harp is to give some colors, but also to improvise on a few spaces. And I just love to improvise, and I find colleagues who share this passion with me. And this is really a great gift and a great pleasure. We have different backgrounds. So for me, I'm like classical trained, but we have drummers from the pop and rock bases, and we have world music musicians. The singing, the Arabic singing is for me as a German very unique, very interesting, but it's like you can dive into the sound. Yeah, I'm always I have yeah, really, because it's so touching. Yeah, this singing, both of them, I really adore them. I was a kind of pioneer maybe 20 years ago as I studied, and I tried to put also jazz and world music elements to my classical instrument. And right now the new generation is growing up, and it's very normal for them to do all those things. But I think I was one of the first who add all those things together. And this is really a big pleasure to me, because my instrument is not so well known, and with guitar or with piano you can imagine that you can play all kinds of music, but for harp it's very unusual to play not only classical music. I like classical music very much, but it's also fun to surprise the people with other aspects of the harp. Music is a language for everybody. And I don't consider myself like a German. I consider myself like a world citizen. And it doesn't matter where I go with my harp, it's a language which touches everybody. And I like this aspect very much, that we are just one human being and music is for everybody.
The band was crowned with the German Jazz Music Award for its latest album, Flying Carpet, accompanied by the international band Cuadro Nuevo, in which its founder, the Egyptian composer Bassem Darwish, held the title of the first flute player to receive this award in Egypt and the Middle East. Cairo Steps has a career spanning of 20 years. It is considered one of the prominent musical experiences in the kingdom of jazz in Europe, and for Egypt, it did succeed in building a wide fan base through all those years. Shuruq Bekir, Cultural Magazine.
The Ministry of Culture is always keen on preserving heritage in the field of art. Let's watch the following segment.
The Cairo Opera House, headed by Dr. Magdi Saber, held a concert for the Arab Musical Heritage Ensemble entitled Wahabiyat, led by Maestro Hazem Al-Qasabgi on the stage of the Institute of the Arab Music. It is worth noting that the Cairo Opera House launched a series of monthly concerts under the title Wahabiyat in memory of the musician of generations Muhammad Abdul Wahab, within the framework of its role to develop artistic taste in society and introducing the pioneers and symbols of Arab music that formed the history and conscience of the Egyptians and Arab people. The band presented features from the time of beautiful art, including songs and melodies by the late musician Muhammad Abdul Wahab, on top of which of the songs لا مش أنا اللي أبكي، يا دنيا يا غرامي، يا مسافر وحدك، قلبي بيقول لي كلام، كان أجمل يوم، لا تكذبي، عاشق الروح and عشان الشوق. The songs were performed by the stars of the Arab Music Ensemble, Sara Zaki, Ibrahim Ramadan, Ahmad Abdel Karim, and Ines Izzeddin. International Ensemble for Arab Music is an Egyptian orchestra to revive the masterpieces of music and heritage. Founded in 1989 by Dr. Ratib Al-Hifni, Maestro Selim Sahab has led the troupe until now in the Egyptian Opera House. The troupe succeeded for 3 decades in drawing the attention and hearing of the masses for the original artistic values in the Arab music.
Well, with this, my dear viewers, we come to the end of this episode of our program, The Cultural Magazine. I hope you've enjoyed being with me. Please wait for me in the next episode. Until then, it's goodbye.